Welcome back to another episode of the Main Quest podcast. This is, of course, the number one retro gaming podcast that flings boogers at snowmen. This is episode 107, I think, tentatively, until I actually title it. And as always, I am your forgetful host, Keith. And speaking of forgetting things, the show is now on YouTube. If that's your preferred way of listening, feel free to subscribe. This is still audio only, just like it is everywhere else. No video podcast plans, unless I get a clone or stop sleeping. And if that changes, you'll be the first to know. And hey, maybe you are here from YouTube. Welcome. Buy my shit. Subscribe. Consume. Head on over to patreon.com/themainquest. Tiers start at just $1. And Apple finally stopped being a pain in the ass, so if you're on iOS, it's easier than ever to toss some coins at me from your coin block. And what do you get? One-shots on games that will never make it to the main feed. We've got side quests on various rabbit holes that I go down, written reviews, Launch Protocol, which is a special show where I suffer through launch libraries and rank them for you, and a bunch of other stuff that you literally cannot get anywhere else. And as of recently, you could have voted in the patron poll earlier this month, but you didn't, did you? The winner of the Patreon poll is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which honestly feels like a cry from help from my supporters, but hey, message received. That episode is coming this October, and if it's not your jam, well, you could have turned the tides. Once again, it's patreon.com/themainquest. Links, as always, are in the show notes. Give me money, or don't, whatever. I'm not your stepdad. Speaking of wayward fathers, Raging Demon returns. It's a horrible, horrible intro. He's a wonderful father, I'm sure. I'm just terrible at intros. And you know what? Thank God he's here, because instead of yelling into the void this time about this game, I got to scream at someone who actually understands me. He is, of course, one half of Command List, easily the best fighting game podcast out there. And longtime listeners may remember him and Rick from Pixel Project Radio joining me for Mortal Kombat 2, which was a great episode. In the backlog, go check it out. As far as this episode goes, well, it is not Mortal Kombat 2. See if the quality of this game rubs off on the rest of the episode. And of course, whether or not you regret listening to this is entirely up to you. With that said, let's get ready to crumble! It's ClayFighter on the Main Quest.
I don't think there's any excuse for it now. Like, I play people in America, and it's fine. It used to be unplayable. 10, 15 years ago, I have to play in my own server, or it won't work, right? And then my own server is a brutal server. So I'm in with Southeast Asia and Japan, and I just get fucking stomped. I want to be on the European server or the North American server where, you know, it's a bit more amateur. There's more casuals, there's more scrubs on it. Yeah, especially some of those anime fighters where there are no casual audience. There just isn't. So everyone you play is a killer. Yeah. Right.
100%. Yeah. So many modern games are actually like pretty good at matching you up with people at your own skill level.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate now. Like, I know Mortal Kombat 11 did something like that. And I played online when that first came out, and didn't have too many problems winning matches online, actually. So I suck at Guilty Gear, though.
What they try to do is they try to have your win-loss ratio at 50-50, right? So that's how they match you. So you're always, if you're going up in the ranks, it means you're actually, you're improving because you're doing better than 50-50. But Mortal Kombat, I like playing Mortal Kombat online because I find the same thing. I find the matchmaking good. I found Street Fighter 6 quite good. I found City of the Wolves, getting wins on that has been fucking rough for me, eh? Like, I've won like 10 fights and I've played like 40 or 50.
Let's put a pin in that real second. I actually wanted to talk to you about that.
All right,
I should
cool.
probably finally formally introduce you. Today's guest has surely punched his way through more towers than a Boeing 767. Returning once again. He's Australian. He doesn't understand 9/11. From the legendary Command List podcast, it is Raging Demon. How you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good. And it's a public holiday here, so I've got the day off, so I'm pretty happy with that, actually.
Yeah, pretty early by you, too, so I hope I'm not too much of like a... Are you like a morning person?
I am, and it's 8:30 in the morning, so like normally I'm up by about 5 for work.
Okay.
So, and newborn baby in the house too, so I'm not getting past 6 in the morning these days anyway, so it's fine.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I just don't want to be like that, like, super chipper person and like super energetic because it's almost 8 o'clock over here at night. And, cause I'm not a morning person. So I just need to know whether or not I should tone it down a little bit or if I'm good where I'm at.
No, I'm pretty, I warm up pretty quick in the morning.
Cool. But City of the Wolves, I'm glad you brought that up because that was a game that I was incredibly excited for. And then as I learned more about it, all of that excitement got sucked right the up.
Oh, what didn't you like about it? The stupid guest characters? Because that kind of put me off a lot. They don't make them very prominent at least, but they're still there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. The guest characters, the questionable guest characters, and a lot of the mechanics that they seem to change from the original Mark of the Wolves, which, I mean, and plus, like, I don't know, to be fair, SNK, like, proper has been dead for, like, a very long time. And so even when the game was announced, I was absolutely like, hell yeah. Like, they're bringing back, like, one of, like, the best, technically, Fatal Fury games. And I was like, wait a minute. Let's tamp down the excitement just a little bit, because SNK is no longer what they used to be. Like, their best days were over, like, in the 90s. I would, in my personal opinion, like, I think Garou was probably one of the last, like, really good SNK games.
Yeah, for me, KOF 13 was probably, I liked 15. I didn't like 14 that much. But 13 was probably their best one, I think. And that was sort of at the end of their current regime, I guess, when they were SNK Playmore or whatever. They're something else now. They're just SNK, but they're not really.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if you know what I'm saying. That's why Ronaldo and Salvatore Ganacci and stuff are in Fatal Fury now. But I think it's what's putting a lot of people off is also the complexity of the defensive mechanics and stuff like that. They're not too bad, but there's a lot more to get your head around in this one. Yeah, I don't like that sort of art style, that cell shaded. I know some people like it. I don't like it. I think sprites look better for 2D games, or even just the way they did say Skullgirls or something like that. Or even look at Streets of Rage art style. I would much prefer that sort of thing over cel-shaded kind of 2.5D.
Do you like the direction the Street Fighter games have taken?
Not really. I liked 4, but I thought it was ugly. And I liked 6. I never really played it. It was just awful from the start. But 6, I like 6, but I also I'm not a fan of 2.5D for Street Fighter. They're not going to convince me. They've tried, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't not play it, and I don't not enjoy it because of that. It doesn't ruin it for me or anything like that. Still looks good. It's just not my preference.
Fighting games have their popularity. I almost accidentally said they're niche. They're not really niche. Obviously, they're not niche. but you have those franchises that, like, it's a very hard, I guess, market to get into. And so unless you're a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat, a Guilty Gear, I guess Guilty Gear they still do the sprites.
Well, yeah, and Guilty Gear Strive looks great.
Yeah, but there's something about Guilty Gear that still seems a little like, I don't know if this is going to sound right, like too clean. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly. Like, there's something about just like looking at raw pixel work, and like Guilty Gear isn't exactly pixel, but it is 2D. So I guess I maybe that's the point I'm trying to make, where it's just like, yeah, it's 2D, but it's not pixelated. I don't know. I think I just have a little more nostalgia for that, like, classic, pixelated look.
Yeah, me too. And I'm still a sucker for retro-inspired games. Like, even now I'm playing The Messenger and stuff. I love that sort of thing. But I don't know if it's because that's what games were when I was a kid or not, but they got more charm to them. And I don't think it ruins the experience for me at all, especially now you don't have to, you can scale them right up. You don't have to have, like, when you play like old games like ROMs and stuff like that on a new TV, it looks fucking awful, but that's not a constraint anymore. So you can still make them look in that style, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to. But I don't know. I think it's mostly nostalgia. I don't think the younger generation care. But I mean, and I think with fighting games, there's probably only room for about 5 franchises at any one time. Otherwise, there's too much to look at, too much to pay attention to. The real hardcore people you can't keep up with that many games, really. Like, if you want to be good at any of them, you can really only do 2 or 3 tops. Otherwise, like, you lose touch with the meta. You have too much to learn. It's not that kind of like genre, I think. So you can see there's a lot of really fighting it out for that third spot in the sort of Evo, where you've got Tekken and Street Fighter traditionally are the stronger titles, and you get Mortal Kombat, just sheer popularity. And I think Mortal Kombat and Tekken are kind of in danger at the moment, particularly Tekken with its latest patch. But like, I feel like there is room for, say, a Virtua Fighter or a Guilty Gear to really lock in and take that, or even maybe City of the Wolves, or to really take that third spot in the market.
I'm glad to hear that you think City of the Wolves has some potential in it.
Oh, I do. I mean, like I've played a heap of it just recently when it came out and everything, and I played the beta and all that, but I'm sort of not really playing it at all at the moment. I'm playing Virtua Fighter 5. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm pumped about. They're
coming out with another one, right?
Yep,
that's the rumor.
Oh, it's not. It's confirmed. They're showing footage of it. Okay. Yeah, but we don't know what it's called. We don't know. They're showing that they're going to do a story mode this time. They're giving characters backstory and stuff, which Virtua Fighter's never had a story, really. So that's going to be interesting.
I'm like, what was the story for Virtua Fighter? I don't remember there being one.
Well, there's the J Syndicate, which is Shadow Law, and they have some parallels to, or some analogies with other fighting games. It's tournament will solve every problem in the world. There are people going there for various reasons, but they've literally got the training dummy as a boss, right? So they're going to have to do something about that.
Where does Hornet come into all of this?
The Hornet. Well, that'd be something. Jackie Bryant, he's a race car driver, CEO, and what else does he do? And he's only like 21. That was when you read the manual, you're like, what the like, how, what a go-getter. But yeah, he probably drives the Hornet.
Hopefully it doesn't transform while he's inside of it.
I often wondered that about Transformers, actually. What happens if they transform while they're inside? Do they just get munched up and just like crushed, or what happens to them?
See, I don't know anything about Transformers other than I think they like humans. Oh, there's one side that likes humans and one that doesn't. I think. I don't know.
Yes, correct.
Some nerd is going crazy right now listening to this.
Yes, the Autobots are very pro-human.
Speaking of like weird bosses and there's no fatalities in this ClayFighter. We should talk about the game that we played today, right?
in the 64 one, there is, I think, finishing moves. But yes, we're not talking about that one. We're talking about the original.
Today we played ClayFighter. So as always, we start the discussion of ClayFighter off with our previous histories. And I have to know, what is your previous history with ClayFighter?
Oh, I played it, all right. I played it when it came out. Like, I remember, for whatever reason, every gaming magazine had ads for ClayFighter. I don't know if that was the same over there, but I was like, why is there so much space for this game? And it just looked really interesting, right? So I rented it heaps of times. I don't know why, because I played it a couple of times. I'm like, this really isn't as good as Street Fighter 2. This really isn't as good as Mortal Kombat. Like, yeah, it's funny. There's some stupid characters and there's humor in it, but it doesn't play that well at all. It's really not a good game, and I'll say that now. You know, it's not as bad as I remember, but actually, surprisingly, normally it's the other way around. You're like, I love this game. And then you go back and you're like, this game's awful. Why did I like this? But yeah, we rented it, me and my brother, back when it came out for the Mega Drive. So we played we had a Mega Drive. We never had a SNES. So we were always playing the Mega Drive ports. Yeah, just seeing it in gaming magazines and seeing it in the video shop and going, yeah, let's get it. Let's rent it.
Yeah, funny enough, I mean, your personal history kind of vibes with mine, too. It was like one of those games I never bought, but my friend and I would rent it periodically. And if I did it, I'm sure I did. But if I did it, let everybody know on like my previous Mortal Kombat episodes. I haven't talked about Street Fighter yet, but I will be. Like, those games were like a big deal, right? And so, of course, you're going to have the copycats and people even making fun of them. And that's what ClayFighter was. And just like you talking about the ads that you saw in magazines over there, we were getting them too. And there was like stuff with like Bad Mr. Frosty killing Ken and Ryu or whatever. And then there was like text above it that'd be like, hey, this ain't your daddy's fighting game or whatever the hell. But then, like, interestingly enough, when you look into the development history of this game, like, ClayFighter was made, although it was saying like, hey, this is bigger and better than those games, it was made under the complete opposite intention. Like, yeah,
and it's not at all like more edgy or bigger or more feature. It's none of those things. Right? It's just not at all. And obviously, at least their intent was clear. They're going to make a parody of Street Fighter 2, right?
Right.
You know, and at the time, you had tournament fighters at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You had Power Rangers fighting game. You had a fighting game for everything, right? And so few of them were any good. But yeah, ClayFighter, I don't know what the budget on this game was, but everyone knew about it, and everyone had played it, I think. Everyone I knew had at least rented it.
Yeah, a lot of the things that I've seen online is kind of saying the same thing, where like everybody played it and nobody liked it. And, you know, looking into some of the reviews, the contemporary reviews when it came out also reflects that same sentiment. So I'm like, how in God's earth did this game get so many sequels and iterations? You know, it's insane. I mean, ClayFighter didn't leave the 90s. You know, I made the 9/11 reference. There was no ClayFighter post 9/11, you know, so they tried. They tried, but nobody wanted it.
I don't know how it got a sequel at all.
Same. But like, I just talked about Road Rash, and like, weirdly enough, when I think about the Sega Genesis, it's even more weird when we talk about the development. We should probably just get into that. Like Road Rash, ClayFighter, as far as like that 90s attitude goes, I feel is like synonymous with the Sega Genesis or the Mega Drive. Sorry, I don't want to confuse you.
The Megasys. Yeah, the Mega Drive. But it's not, you're right though. I think even though it was on both the 16-bit consoles, right, it was still, it's got Mega Drive all over it. Like, it's that attitude. It's like you said, Road Rash. What's more 90s than Road Rash as well? Like,
nothing.
Talking about ClayFighter very much seems like a Mega Drive game, doesn't it? Like, there's so many games with that kind of approach. Is like, oh, this is a cool, this is it's self-referential as well. Even the sequel, right, which came out on SNES and not on Mega Drive, is called Judgment Clay, right? Which is hilarious because Terminator 2 was like the biggest movie ever when I was a kid. Everyone had to watch that 100 times, right? So Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and then they make ClayFighter 2 Judgment Clay. I feel like they really just made a sequel just so they could use that, because I can't see how it was this game commercially successful or not. I have no idea, but it got, was it 3 sequels? It made it to the 64.
Yeah, it had 3 sequels and 2 iterations, like updates, the same as like Street Fighter would get. Yeah.
Tournament edition, which is pretty funny that they make fun of Street Fighter by making multiple versions, but it made it to the Nintendo 64 for fuck's sake, like, and that game's not, and then it's gone 63 and a third, which is another Naked Gun fucking joke too, which is very 90s as well, right? So you're right, it's a sort of time capsule for sure, this game.
Yeah, it's like somebody had a really good joke and then they just kept telling it over and over again. Then maybe they shouldn't have done that. All right, let's get into this because this is a very weird game. So ClayFighter is a fighting game originally developed by Visual Concepts, but the version that we're talking about today was made by Ringler Studios and published by Interplay. Personnel for Ringler Studios, we have the producer, Ed Ringler, senior programmer, Dave Castellanovo, technical director, Chris Oak, and the designers are Clee Miller and Gary Plattner. Now, I've already kind of alluded to the fact that this seems like a very iconic Genesis game, but when you look into the inception of this game, things become even more weird because ClayFighter is clearly a response to the Senate hearings that happened that year surrounding Mortal Kombat and Doom, and I always forget the last game.
Night Trap.
No, there was another one too. I never remember which one it was.
Pit Fighter. No.
Yeah, Pit Fighter. It was a shooter. I don't remember.
Duke Nukem? Was that later?
Yeah, sure. Let's throw Duke Nukem under the bus. He deserves it. So like you look at the development of this and it states that Visual Concepts wanted to make a more friendly, family friendly and like comical version of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, which by the time this game was going into production, Mortal Kombat, Night Trap and everything were like already under the gun. They're already making headlines for the violence and stuff that they purportedly caused. And then you combine that with the fact that this was originally released for the Super Nintendo. It can't be anything more than a direct response to that stuff, which is interesting. And that's why I think it's weird that, and that's probably has to do with the fact that this was when I first played it was on a Sega Genesis. It's weird that I find this synonymous with that console because it's like, why would Sega want a port of this game other than just to, I don't know. It's a cash grab, maybe. I don't know because
just to
Mortal Kombat made Sega a household name. Mortal Kombat probably did just as much, if not more, for Sega than Sonic the Hedgehog did.
Oh, 100%. And a garbage port of MK1 on the SNES was actually one of the blows to Nintendo that's Sega landed. So it was. there's an actually a really good Mortal Kombat book. I'm trying to remember the author's name, but he talks about this specifically being huge for the Mega Drive / Genesis, because not only was the Nintendo port bad because they changed everything to sweat, it was an actual bad port as well, like gameplay wise and stuff. But they also were limiting cartridge supply and all sorts of weird stuff to try not to have this game do well. But then it just went amazing on the Mega Drive. So there was no need for a ClayFighter type game on the Mega Drive. Right. I think the only reason Sega would want it is to have it. Yeah, not to actually use it as like a title that sells consoles, because it clearly won't. Like, this game's, it's a game. That's they've nothing more to say about it quality wise than it's less than average, right? But not unplayable. The Super Nintendo port is better, but the Mega Drive version is a port of the Super Nintendo one, which is why it's kind of shit, right? But yeah,
I did want to bring this back around. I think you're talking about the same book I have, Long Live Mortal Kombat.
Yes,
by David L. Craddock.
Yeah. Yep, Craddock. Yep, 100%. That's the guy.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
Give him his shout out, because it's a really good book.
It really is. Yeah, because that's all it is. It's just basically the same thing that the Super Nintendo got. There's nothing like Mortal Kombat in ClayFighter that would make you think like, oh, there's something more violent in here or whatever. No, it is what it is. And you brought up kind of like the whimsical comedy of ClayFighter, and I think even as a kid, I don't know, I never thought ClayFighter was that funny. I certainly don't think it's funny now. We'll get into that a little bit later. I just think it's more of like, I don't know, I feel like the port of this game, in hindsight, I don't think this like really harmed them at all. I mean, this was still pretty early in the generation, so I think they probably did the port just because they were like, well, if Nintendo can do it, we can do it too. And so we got something to prove. Yeah,
absolutely. And yeah, it didn't really do anything for them. Like you said, it didn't hurt them, but it didn't help them either, And the differences between the two versions are not huge, so it's not like, I would say this SNES one's better, but it's not like way better, like, and then, so. But this sort of, this is very timely back when they could actually turn out a game reasonably quick. Because can you imagine if they go, oh, we need to cash in on this controversy and this popularity of the fighting genre and all the 90s. And it's all dumb one-liners. It's not really that funny, like you said. We need to cash in on this. We need to make a game. Oh, these days that would take 4 or 5 years. Right?
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and then it will get delayed again, and then they'll lay people off, and then they'll get a new development team fix it. And,
right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how long this took to develop, but yeah, they clearly jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah, it was about a year, and most of that stuff was due in part to the collaboration with Danger Productions, which handled the clay models and the animation.
Yeah. And they did a similar stop motion, right? Like Mortal Kombat type, but with clay. And then digitized clay models, like, wasn't it?
So Interplay surprisingly stepped in. They did a lot of the digitizing of the characters, of the clay models and stuff, which is something Midway did with Mortal Kombat. That's like what they established. So they use that same technique to kind of put the clay models into the video game, turn them into sprites. But what Danger Productions did, I guess, for the genre, I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, any other video game that uses the claymation and stop motion technique.
No, I can't think of any.
Other than Primal Rage, which I covered on the show already. So they were like, this ClayFighters is like one of the first games that has done this. So they basically, they utilize the stop motion for the movement of the characters, which again, talked about on Primal Rage. I will say this, and I said it on Primal Rage too, because we're going to be talking about the visual aspects of ClayFighter a little bit later. I don't think can be understated how slow and meticulous the modeling and the stop motion work is. Every punch, every kick, every emote has frames, of course, and each frame needs to be captured in real time by these modelers, and they have to pose and repose the models every single time. I think, there's like 6 fighters or something in ClayFighter.
8.
Maybe 8. I think it's 8.
8, yeah.
They had over 70 models to work with. So there's a lot of work. It's absolutely brutal work. And I'm sure we're probably going to shit all over that work a little bit later. So I wanted to throw my appreciation out here.
They're not safe. I know they worked really hard, but you could also work really hard just going to the beach and digging a hole with a shovel, right? The hole still doesn't do anything.
I'm just saying, I don't want to throw as much shade on Danger Productions as I'm going to throw on, Visual Concepts and Ringler Studios here.
The point is, it is a very difficult technique, and it can look at, like, they did the Wallace and Gromit movie back in the day the same way, and it famously took them years to make the movie because of that. So now, obviously, they can do that, like, with computers. But, right. They took that Mortal Kombat technique, applied it to clay models, and then used the gameplay of Street Fighter. It really is a bit of a Frankenstein, this game as well. So
using the gameplay of Street Fighter is a little generous.
Well,
I'll just say that.
I'll put it like this: they used the mechanics of Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
The implementation is a bit like, the Lada is a car, right? That Russian car, you know what I mean? It drives and it's a car, but is it, a Ford? No, it's not. You know what I mean? So, I feel like they just they've mashed together several different aspects of other fighting game franchises, and even the characters are pretty. There's a bit of creativity there, but when it comes to movesets, and we're not really talking mechanics yet, I guess, but the movesets are all complete rip-offs, right? Obviously.
Right. Right.
They've even gone with the same control scheme as Street Fighter with a light, medium, heavy, But I feel bad for the people who put all that work in to have someone review it and go, this sucks. But you can't say it's good. Like, it's not. So...
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation, especially in regards to like my show and how I talk about games, because it's basically like 2 different teams doing different things.
Yeah.
For this, whereas like Mortal Kombat, when Midway was making that game, I mean, that was all done in house with like their own teams and stuff like that. Like this is
with like 10 people,
right? And this is like two different teams working on one thing. So. And Danger Productions, they didn't do another ClayFighter after this. But they did go on to do, they did some minor stuff for the, 64 title. Yeah. So I mean, and then Danger Productions went on to do like TV shows and movies and stuff. They're mostly known for the Saturday morning cartoon Bump in the Night, which looks, I posted the intro to the show to that cartoon, quote unquote I don't know if you would call it cartoon, but
animation,
it looks great.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at that compared to what we have in ClayFighter, I mean, the game and the show are like 3 years apart. Bump in the Night looks fantastic. It looks really good. Watching it on an HD TV, of course. I mean, you kind of see it's kind of cool because you kind of see all the wires and stuff inside of the clay model sometimes, and I think it's really interesting. Where it's like, you probably wouldn't see that stuff on a CRT, but yeah, man, it's really cool. I think it's neat.
Yeah, but not every project will be a success either, and it doesn't matter. Like, because for them, say they did this, but it led to learning something really cool or getting really good at something that will pay off later on a different project. Because the presentation team and the gameplay team, not the same people. One team could have absolutely nailed it. Even though, like, I play this now and it looks awful because of the resolution and the newer TVs and stuff. I can't remember whether or not I was impressed with how it looked back in the day. But I wouldn't have thought about it back then. I would have been, oh yeah, it's a game. I wouldn't have, as a kid, I wouldn't have thought, this looks like they worked really hard on this. I would not have thought that at all.
Right.
You know,
right. I guess this is going back to our previous history a little bit, but it's like, you know, you look at some arcade games like the Simpson arcade game and you're just like, wow, this looks just like the cartoon, right? And you're like impressed that way. I think when I think about ClayFighter and I think about its presentation back then, knowing what it was going for, using clay as the medium here, just like the way I thought, you know, well, technically Mortal Kombat did use real people, where I was like, wow, this looks like a real life person. I'm fighting a real ice ninja and a thunder wizard. Where I looked at ClayFighter and I'm like, wow, this looks just like clay. This just looks like the stuff I can go down to the store and buy. Now, does it hold up today? We'll get to that in a little bit. I have some feelings about how this game looks visually.
Well, and there's no arcade port, which is usually where you'd see Mortal Kombat shine, right? Because if you looked at the first Mortal Kombat and it looks really good on the arcade machine because they haven't had to approximate the digitized sprites the same way they have with the, limited hardware of like the Super Nintendo or the Mega Drive, right? So they're able to have beefier hardware and it looks more realistic. Not that the consoles look bad, it's just they're a product of their era that, but ClayFighter never took advantage of more powerful arcade hardware to show off the real clay look. They never, and that's actually where the money was back in 1993.
And Primal Rage did.
Yeah, they did, yes. Yep.
They had an arcade machine. Yeah, I think that's important to bring up. This was not an arcade game.
At a time where arcades were doing very well as well. So,
speaking of arcades and release dates and stuff, ClayFighter was released for the Super Nintendo in November 1993. It was then, of course, ported to the Sega Genesis and the Mega Drive a year later, and was officially released worldwide in 1995. I already kind of talked about the various ports and revisions and sequels. The same way, again, Street Fighter II would get revisions. There was ClayFighter: Tournament Edition for this game specifically. And then again, followed up by 2 sequels, and one of those got a revision all of its own, which was a Blockbuster exclusive, by the way, which I read is like one of the most expensive video games out there right now on like eBay and stuff.
Correct.
Insane.
Absolutely nuts. You could only rent it and get it from Blockbuster. I don't even know how many copies there are. There are so few. It would be hundreds probably.
I'm going to let everybody know right now, including you, sir. This is the only ClayFighter game I'll be covering ever. So I did not play those other games.
63 and a third. You got to do that. It's funny, actually, because the first episode we did on Command List, we were like, all right, we're going to sit down. We're going to try and do a podcast, me and Jim. And then we were like, well, we can't do a good game. We got to save the good games till later, like, right? So episode number 1, unofficially, never released. We still got the recording somewhere. It sounds awful.
Oh, dude, you got to put that out.
That is, I don't think we can, but it was ClayFighter. And we talked about the whole franchise. So we didn't just talk about like the first few on the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. We talked about 63 and a third and stuff. But just a bit of a fun fact about Command List. The first episode we ever tried to record was ClayFighter of all games. Because we were like, this game sucks. Let's do this game. That way it won't matter if the episode sucks.
You guys rose from the ashes like a phoenix. Rose from the clay like a snowman.
Oh, you just smushed it into a ball and started again. Like, that's what you do with clay, isn't it? Wet it a little bit, smush it in a ball.
Right.
But clay, 63 and a third had Earthworm Jim in it. That's 90s. Boogerman.
Oh, no wonder I didn't play that one.
But that was the 90s. Like, everyone who grew up in the 90s playing these consoles knew who Earthworm Jim was. So
right. Nobody knew who Boogerman was.
Yeah, people have forgotten that completely, but yeah.
So review scores, these are pretty damning. Again, these are all contemporary scores, and normally I don't put console-focused magazines in here because they usually are a little too over positive about the game. But I do have Mega Fun in here, which is a Sega Mega Drive magazine out of Germany, I believe. And Mega Fun gave ClayFighter a 49%, which is not great.
Generous.
Game Rankings has ClayFighter at 49% as well. IGN gave it 4 out of 10. Eurogamer gave it 5 out of 10. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a 6.6 out of 10. Just Video Games, here they are again. I think this is like the 3rd episode in a row. Gave it a 65%. They are like the be all end all of reviewing, right? They're just called video games. They are video games.
100%.
And then we've got Video Games and Entertainment, which gave it like the highest. I'm blown away by this score, 8 out of 10 in 1993. So yeah, just to kind of set the scene. And again, these are all the Genesis ports. I didn't look up the Super Nintendo reviews, although I can't imagine they'd be any different. Unfortunately, I have no silly user reviews for this one. I can only assume that everybody hates this game. There's always a silent majority, right? There's always a silent majority that like, hey, no, this is my favorite game of all time.
God said no one ever about ClayFighter. The 8 out of 10 though, that is blowing me away. Even just 65% is way too high. Considering what you see some of these reviews for other games that are far better than this, getting 6s and 7s and 8. That's awful.
Well, those aren't the only reviews that I have here. Of course, we have Retro Recollections, which, of course, you, dear listener, can participate in as well. All you have to do is join the public Discord and keep an eye and ear out for when I'm looking for you guys to talk about the game that I will also be talking about. If you follow me along on the social media platform of your choice, you can also participate there as well. All the links to that stuff are in the show notes. And we only have a few here, and they are all from the Discord. To be fair, I posted this one a little bit later than I would have liked to. Didn't have enough time for this to breathe. But first we have Matt, a.k.a. Storm again, from, of course, the Reignite and Fun and Games podcast. They say, I loved this very stupid game. I don't remember if it's good, but I remember playing it to death. I owned the SNES version, so I'm not quite sure how different they are, but it was a wacky good time that I'm guessing doesn't hold up, but I'm open to being pleasantly surprised. Thank you, Matt. I don't think you're going to be surprised at all by the way this conversation is going.
I think you might be unpleasantly surprised if you played it again. But yeah.
We've got Chris Copleen, of course, of the Retro Hangover podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed this game as a kid. Like Matt, I got my experience from the Super Nintendo version. I remember being quite good at it, too. It felt like a great graphical showpiece that was incredibly goofy. Today, I'm not sure it would stand up, or if you would think it would. But you like Virtual Racing for the 32X, so who knows how this will go. Thanks, Chris, and I've already taken my jabs at you on the previous episode on Road Rash, so, I'll let that one slide.
All right, so paraphrase Chris, and basically, all right, I like this game, but you have taste, so I don't know what you're going to say. That's basically what he said.
Lethco of the Afterglow podcast says, this game was a rental for me. When I had first seen it in magazines, I was interested, but after renting it, I found it just wasn't for me. Thank you, Lethco, and I think a lot of people back in the day found out that it was not for them.
And I think that's that's basically 99% of people's experience is what he just wrote there.
That was ours.
Yeah.
That was ours.
We said the same thing. Oh, I was in heaps of magazines. I rented it. It wasn't that good.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys all for writing in. Let's dive into. Let's do this. Let's start out talking with the story and plot. I'm kind of disappointed that when we start this game, there's like no cool intro, no cool like logo reveal or anything like that. When I was looking into the development for the game and coming across people who were talking about this game, a lot of them lauded the intro song for this, which I guess kind of dive into the music here a little bit. People love this song, apparently. I think it sounds like...
Yes. Yeah, no, it's not good. But I think if most people played it on the Super Nintendo, they would have got that ClayFighter, they would have got that, like, the lyrics, the vocals, right?
Oh, maybe that... Okay.
But Mega Drive, famously bad for voices, didn't have that. They didn't put the effort in to try and do that. They also... The opening sequence, it interplays all mode 7 and on the Super Nintendo is just a logo on the Mega Drive.
Okay, so we played
that ClayFighter song. We played the one without the cool intro song.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's still generous. It's not a cool intro song. It's pretty bad still, but yeah,
mid as the kids would say.
Yeah,
dude. Even the story for this game is pretty whack. Street Fighter 2 has a better story and characters than ClayFighter does. Because when you beat ClayFighter, you don't even get anything. It's just like hey, thanks for playing and thank you very much. There's really nothing going on with the characters at all.
No, and to get endings, I don't know if you can on the Mega Drive, but on the Super Nintendo, you have to beat it on hard, and then you get a text ending.
What difficulty did you play this on?
I played this on medium, but like I looked up the endings on the Super Nintendo because this is actually a really fucking hard game. Right? If I'm being honest, it's pretty brutal. That you have to cheese to win.
Oh, yeah. I played it on easy and I just spammed a jump kick like the entire
100%.
game.
Solid tactic. That's a solid strat for this game for sure. I did pretty much the same thing. But to get the endings, and you don't get a lot of... It's not much better than hey, here's who made the game. Yourself, like you said. But yeah, it's... so you get one screen... with a bit of text of what happened to that character at the end. And there's some of them a little bit funny, but yeah, and that's on the Super Nintendo version only, I think, and it's only if you play it on hard.
Let's back up for a second. Back up. Let's talk about the story a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
So the story as it's laid out, as we're told, is a meteor made of clay, of course, very specifically hits this one spot out of like the entire planet, assuming it's Earth. This one specific spot happens to be a circus. Nothing else. Now, my mind, because I'm an idiot, I'm calling into question like how big this meteor is. Because like 2,000 kilometer meteor is going to like absolutely annihilate everybody on the planet, right? And even one that's like half that size is going to be pretty devastating. But this somehow just manages just to take out like this one, like just 90 square meter circus or something like
yeah, it doesn't make any sense because the reason all creators are round is because they're explosions, because once the velocity reaches a certain point, it actually causes an explosion. That's how ballistic missiles work. So a comet is a ballistic missile. So there would be nothing left. And one that size would destroy the whole planet, like you said.
Right.
But, maybe we're being that guy, right? Well, actually, that wouldn't work,
So this is where my train of thought is going. Because from this meteor, right, arises these monsters, this goop contagion, right? They are the titular clay fighters. So, I guess we run down the characters, I guess. Bad Mr. Frosty, of course. Taffy, Tiny, Blob, Blue Suede Goo, Icky Bod Clay, Helga, and Bonker. Now, where I'm like, man, they really just didn't even try to think of a story.
No,
this was like they didn't try. So instead of maybe hitting a circus, maybe it hits a city instead, right? And instead of the fighters just kind of like rising from the clay like a primordial ooze or whatever, the clay that is spread around the city, it doesn't have to destroy it like it didn't destroy this circus for whatever reason. The clay attacks the humans and gets into like our supple, ample little human holes and affects the human race and then turns them into the clay fighters, like turns them into monsters like this infection or this contagion or whatever.
Symbiote. if
Right.
you will.
Right, yeah, exactly. And like, since this is supposed to be like a goofy parody or whatever, have the final boss be a regular human being and make them have it be like this weird like meta thing where it is like the only regular digitized sprite, kind of like Mortal Kombat. Call that final boss the Sculptor because he knows how to handle clay, right?
Oh, that actually would have been a great boss, eh? The one of the creators of the game.
Instead of the that we have at the end of the game. Or whatever that's supposed to be.
I was going to say bring.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I just made all that up. They didn't put any thought into the story.
You just put more effort into the story than they did. There is a romance in this. This is a story of romance, this game.
Oh, because no, do tell.
When you beat the game with Helga, it turns out Helga marries Tiny and they have 8 kids. But I didn't even know that this was a thing until I went and watched all the endings on YouTube. And Bad Mr. Frosty replaces Father Christmas. He replaces Santa Claus and him off and takes his job. So that's the only thought that's gone into the story of this game. Though that one panel of text on the ending.
That's the one thing I kind of enjoyed. Was the laziest profiles that's on the character select screen for this, where it's just like, Bad Mr. Frosty likes snow cones. Taffy likes taffy. Helga likes to sing. It's just like, okay.
But Taffy ends up opening a taffy factory and selling taffy. Isn't that like cannibalism for him?
Yes. I want to go back because I need to ask about how clay fighters fornicate with each other, because couldn't you technically, they could have just ripped their flesh off and like make children, right?
Theoretically, yes.
Like gremlins? Like if you get a gremlin.
But how do they make how do they, another great 90s pull there, how do they give them consciousness though? I
mean, they're aliens, right?
It sounds like I had no idea.
We're thinking too much about a story that's not actually here.
We've already thought more about it than they have, clearly, right? Yeah, but what is an Elvis impersonator and a jack-o'-lantern? He's top tier, by the way. That was my main. Icky Bod.
Okay.
But, yeah, well, what are they even doing at a circus? Why is there a yodeler at a circus dress? You know, doesn't she have a Viking helmet on too, Helga?
The joke, which I had to look it up, the joke with Helga, the reason why I had to look it up is because this joke, quote unquote joke or whatever, stereotype, or I don't even know what it is, did not leave the 90s. She's a play on the when the fat lady sings trope or joke or whatever, which like I had to look because I was like, what is she supposed to be? And so that's kind of what she's just a fat woman and she sings. Isn't that hilarious?
Get it? Huh?
But my mains, I didn't really have a main. I checked out Bad Mr. Frosty. I did a playthrough with him, and then I did a playthrough with Blob, I think. To be fair, all these characters are practically the same, which, I mean, why don't we talk about the gameplay now? Let's get into that.
Do your podcast feel underleveled? Sick of content that doesn't overclock your ear holes? Crack open a cold can of Hell Piss Zero Mercy. It might sound like an energy drink, but it's actually the main quest Patreon attacking your nervous system. For less than the cost of a loose copy of Perfect Weapon, you'll get bonus episodes recorded in an abandoned KB Toys. Early access to episodes before you even know you want them. Listen as your host Keith researches and revisits and re-evaluates retro games with a mix of sarcasm, sincerity, and that thing scientists call good podcasting.
No actual scientists are consulted in the making of this podcast. Good podcasting is not a medically recognized condition, and any resemblance to sincere analysis is purely coincidental.
We gave the Main Quest Patreon to a test group. We're still sorting out the consequences.
Ever since I joined the Patreon for the Main Quest podcast, Keith has unleashed the beast in me. Ever since the Primal Rage episode, I now go to random children's birthday parties in an inflatable T-Rex costume to brighten their day. And if I here is Imam.
The Patreon gave me emotions. I do not want them. Please kill me. It's okay to like a video game.
Join that before the algorithm bans it for being too powerful. Link in the show notes. Or scrawl Main Quest in blood on your nearest Wii U gamepad and whisper Keith 3 times into the mic.
Help His trademark has not been evaluated, approved, or acknowledged by any real government agency. Side effects may include stick drift, polygonal hallucinations, involuntary bricking, aggressive XP drip, LAN party flashbacks, emotional damage caused by hot takes, spontaneous quick time events, and a strong desire to rank every Gex game. Do not consume if you are pregnant, wear deodorant, or currently dating. Contact Dr. Mario if symptoms persist. May permanently overwrite your taste profile. Void where prohibited.
Everyone's a Shoto.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally no difference in which character you're playing as. I mean, like when you look at Mortal Kombat, I mean, it's an easy comparison because without Mortal Kombat, this game would not be made. Even though there's the palette swaps, like the ninjas, Sub-Zero is very different from the way Scorpion plays. Sonya, a human character, very different from Johnny Cage. And then, since I just mentioned the Blob, why not? I'll pick on the Blob. The Blob is a nothing character. It's literally just a ball of clay. They were just I don't know, what if it was just this, and threw it on a table, and they were like, oh, great idea, I guess. That was such an easy home run to make, the Blob the Shang Tsung character of the game. And he can turn into the different fighters and, use their moves or whatever. Granted, the other fighters, they don't have that identity of, a Sub-Zero and a Scorpion. They all have practically, the same moves, the same way to execute those moves. Go ahead. What did you think about the gameplay? I'm sorry. I'm kind of going on a rant here.
Well, they're a mixture of a charge and a non-charge character, all of them, right? So all the ones I played had a charge move. And that's normally like a Psycho Crusher type move, right? And then they have a fireball that takes too long to start up, so it's useless. So you can shoot these fireballs, but you can close space so quick, and that's so quickly I'm using loosely this game's slow as you have to speed it up to make it playable. But the startup frames on the projectiles are too slow to use for anything. So you end up just using jump kicks, sweeps, and just heavy normals. Fast normals, heavy, and that's all you do. Some characters have some useful specials, like Ikebod can teleport, and what's funny is I remember we were doing an episode of Dark Legend, a Saturn fighting game, where we were talking about you can pretend to be stunned. This is with Chris Copeland on our show, right? And Taffy can pretend to be stunned as one of his moves, right? And I remember I watched a video of Justin Wong playing this game. Justin Wong's a Street Fighter Third Strike champ. He played this game on his stream, right? And he was
God bless him.
He was complaining about how hard it was, because it is really hard, and it's kind of the damage from the attacks makes no sense, and it changes. It's just hard to understand. But Taffy would get stunned. He'd walk up and then he'd recover and hit him, and he didn't know that Taffy could do this. And it was funny because it's like, wow, he recovers so quickly. It's because it's a move. So I actually was saying on Dark Legend, I've never seen this before in a game, pretending to be stunned. But this game predates that game. So yes, they must have thought of that themselves, because I haven't seen that before. And I thought Dark Legend was the first to do that. But yeah.
I'm glad you finally found your holy grail.
But yeah, I was like, I found an even earlier example of this mechanic. The mechanics are kind of like Street Fighter, but then you do a jump kick, right? You could do the light version and he would just leave their leg out, or whatever they've got, because they don't all have legs. Yeah. And then you could hit them at any moment with that. That's a nice cheese. Or you could do a heavy and it just kicks out once and then you're vulnerable again. They haven't really made up their mind. It's all over the shop, and all the specials are all the same. mostly with every character. There's just small differences. You basically can just jump kick your way to victory, like you said.
Yeah.
And on the harder difficulties, you get
it's
stomped.
a perfect legit strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have dared play this on anything else than easy, because I legitimately tried to play. I was giving this game the benefit of a doubt when I was coming into it, just like any other game that I play for the show. And I like this era of fighting games, even if they're like terrible to play single player. I mean, I had you on Mortal Kombat 2. I still love Mortal Kombat 2. And I knew that, yeah, I was probably going to get my ass handed to me eventually. But like playing this like legitimately was, God, it was just, you want to just even talk about like game feel. Like it doesn't even like feel good to execute any of the moves. You mentioned the game speed. I mean, you want to have a bad time, put this game to speed 1 and you will know how painful this game is. Now, I think it's cool because it's kind of like an accessibility option, which is cool that they thought of, but like it's almost like it's not a real accessibility option because they didn't, like, all they're doing is just like taking frames out of the game. That's all they're doing, which is like, you don't want to do that in a fighting game.
And it doesn't feel like legitimately slowed down, right? So it doesn't feel like,
right, exactly.
Like the inputs feel, it's so like the input should still be just as responsive, but what should be slower is movement speed, projectile speed, that sort of thing. Not just, like you said, just put it in slow-mo. Like that's not what slowing the game down should be. And speeding it up is conversely a problem. If you put it on the highest speed, it just feels unplayable. Like yeah.
So I didn't know what that option was initially. So I was like, I'll put it to like 5 or something like that's halfway, you know? And it still felt like really clunky. It felt really slow. And I'm like, all right, let me jack this all the way up to 10 or whatever. And then like it felt better, but it also, like you said, it almost felt like too broken, like too much of a mess. So, I mean, if you want like a decent experience, put it to 8 or something. Because like initially I thought, like, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a Street Fighter Turbo type of thing where it's like, this is like the faster, more like fluid one. There's more animation going on, combos and whatever. And I was like, wow, this is pretty forward thinking for the time, because that didn't really exist yet. But no, it's literally just like, do you want to play the game normally or just like at 10 frames a second?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the game speed is, I was the same. I think I put it at like 6 or 7 in the end, just as a sort of compromise between when it's too fast, it feels weird, and when it's too slow, it is really slow, this game. It just is, and there were times where I was playing, I'm going, this will take a lot longer to beat than I thought, because you also, even though you can do some serious damage and kill real quickly, sometimes it's so clunky and slow that you run out of time, right? So
that was the case for at least like 4 or 5 of the fights, which is like most of the fights actually. When I think about it, because you have to fight like 3 characters like again.
Yes,
like, they didn't have enough characters in the game. Like,
no, you and I thought something had gone wrong with my save state. But like,
that's horrible. That's
horrible.
horrible.
I also had 3 double KOs, which is I could play Street Fighter for a whole year and not have a double KO, right? Like it happens, but it's super rare.
Yeah,
and you both get the round, right? So, but in this, you have to do it again, and they're way more common. And it's funny because even like watch other people play it. Like I brought up Justin Wong. He had a double KO when he was playing it. It's like the double KOs are so common in this game, and it's infuriating because it makes you play an extra round of a game you're really not enjoying. Right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, right.
But yeah,
there's not enough variety in this game at all. The final boss, again, I don't know what this final boss is. Like, what is it supposed to be? I don't understand the joke. And it uses the same stage as the Blob, so it's like not even like a unique stage. the boss doesn't look unique.
Well, you mentioned one of the
like
guys who created it, his last name was Ringer or something. Was it a reference to that? What? Because the boss's name is N Boss, which I get is funny because it's a joke about M Bison and about the final boss at the same time. So that's kind of clever, but it's not.
I didn't even catch the Bison reference.
Yeah, but it's both in one. Like, and it's kind of funny, but it's not like laugh out loud funny or anything like that. But then they made the boss just a ring. Like,
so does the Super Nintendo version have the same boss?
Yes, but it shoots like the different projectiles of all the characters, like the musical note for Blue Suede Goo, and then the flame for Ichibod Clay, and all, you know. But whereas in the Mega Drive version, it's just a white ball.
So yeah, Ed Ringler was the producer for just the Genesis port. So
yeah, so that can't be the reason.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'd have to contact someone from the team and go, why?
Yeah, this is this game sucks. It's not good. I can understand. This is still pretty early in like the fighting game craze. There wasn't enough homework to copy quite yet, but I mean, Street Fighter 2 was there. Mortal Kombat is there. And hearing from you that the sequels are still bad, it's just like, why haven't you done the work? And like I said, we were talking about up top, how this game got a sequel, I have no idea. Other than I think fighting games were just really hot at the time. And so maybe it was just easier for a sequel to get greenlit. Because this doesn't, like, nothing about this game feels good. And the characters are not interesting.
It must have made money. It must have. Otherwise, how? You know what I mean? Like, I know the budgets are smaller, but like, this is a claymation
but also
budget.
There's no arcade game. Like, so they weren't pulling in money from arcades either.
Well, part of the charm, like not charm, I guess, but part of the power of why Street Fighter 2 did so well when it came out in the SNES was because it was a fucking smash hit arcade game, right? It would not have done, it's a good game. Street Fighter is obviously an amazing game, but it would not have done the numbers it did if it had not been a massive arcade hit, because practicing at home and then playing at the arcade and then being able to play at home with it was basically like a feedback loop. And there's no arcade version for this. So like, there's no loop. Like, you can't go into the arcade and show off your ClayFighter skills for anyone. Like, how? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
Whereas there was a bit of fucking street cred in going into an arcade and dominating at Street Fighter 2. Right? So, yeah, I don't know. And Mortal Kombat the same. But see, you said, there wasn't enough homework to copy. Mortal Kombat seemed to do okay off just Street Fighter. And they weren't a straight-up copy either. So...
No, yeah, they were doing their own thing. The original Super NES release, 1993, of ClayFighter sold 200,000 copies by the end of 1994.
That's actually a lot for the time.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Listen to the Retro Recollections and listen to what we talked about in our previous histories. Like, the ad campaign was very good. It worked, right? And so then, yeah, I mean, if that's just numbers for the Super Nintendo, I have to imagine the Genesis or Mega Drive is probably right around the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's basically like it's a new thing effect. It's a bit like, I don't know, like when Pepsi Blue came out and everyone's like, it's blue, I'm going to try it. And then everyone's like, it's not that, just going to drink the regular Pepsi. You know what I mean? Right. Like, it sold well enough because of its initial interest, but it had no staying power because it's bad, right? But like, they should have figured that out too before they made a sequel.
Let's get into today's game. I don't know. I think when you were on Mortal Kombat 2, I was not doing the trivia segments.
No, you weren't.
So I think this is your first one.
It is.
Are you ready?
I'm unprepared, but we'll proceed. we'll proceed.
This is a game I would like to call Resume Rampage. Earlier, we were talking about the profiles for each of the playable characters in ClayFighter. And you even specifically brought up the jobs. And even though, these fighters were basically birthed from primordial ooze from an asteroid, they do indeed have jobs for some reason. That's also not explained. I guess Uncle Sam does not discriminate. Mr. Demon, all I'm simply going to do is give you the character. There's 8 characters, 8 guesses, and all you have to do is tell me what their job is. Are you ready?
No. Go on, though. I'm not going to do well at this.
Character number 1. This one should be easy. Bonker. What is Bonker's job?
Bonker is a clown. That is his job.
I'm going to give that one to you.
He's an
His
entertainer.
job is clowning.
Clowning.
Yeah, his job is clowning specifically. Next, we have Blue Suede Goo.
Oh, this is going to be one of those ones where you're going to be like, oh, he's an Elvis impersonator. Or he's a singer. But he's probably not. I'm going to say Blue Suede Goo is a... Yeah, I'll just go with the obvious. He's an Elvis impersonator.
I'm sorry. Blue Suede Goo's job is a musician.
That I have to be very precise, don't I? Yeah.
Yeah, don't think too hard about these because they certainly didn't. Character 3, I need to know, what is Helga's job?
Opera singer.
Yeah, specifically just singer, which is different from musician, apparently.
Yeah,
wait,
obviously.
Who did Helga have sex with? Was that Tiny?
Tiny.
Okay.
That's why he's really called Tiny.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Tiny, what is Tiny's job?
He's a wrestler. A professional wrestler. Or is he a gym owner? Wrestling gym. Oh, he's a fucking mechanic or something, isn't he?
I'm sorry, the answer I was looking for is flexing.
Flexing. Oh, right.
Just flexing.
I wasn't aware. Well, I guess you could probably make a good living from flexing in front of a mirror now, but lots of people are recording it at the gym now. So,
wasn't that just what like the Mr. Universe competition was? Like Arnold didn't do anything; he just went up there. Well, I mean, Arnold
it's posing
worked a lot in the So maybe,
but they have to practice it.
Yeah, that's true.
They do. They obviously having the muscles. Step 1. Right? Step 2, learning how to pose with the muscles.
Yeah.
Step 3, profit.
Yeah, it's kind of like dancing in a way.
Oh, wait, and the steroids is there's a step in there for steroids too.
Yeah, right. I think there's a little cheating in step 1.
Yeah.
All right. Bad Mr. Frosty.
Bad Mr. Frosty. You can't really say snowman is a job, can you? Or is it? Flexing is a job. I know.
They're kind of wild and loose with what is a job.
Yeah. All right. His job is he sells snow cones. No, they wouldn't put that.
Close. Kinda.
They
His job is snowplow.
Snowplow.
Now, he's Clay. Does he turn into a snowplow? Or does he drive a snowplow?
That'd be pretty funny if he drove a snowplow.
In his profile, it says that he hates hot.
Yeah, well, all the clay fighters. Yeah, all the clay fighters should stay away from ovens. But yeah.
All right, you should get this one. You already talked about it. Taffy.
Taffy sells taffy, sweets, lollies, whatever, candy.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to you. Candyman, specifically.
Yes, and we don't say candy here. We say lollies, but yeah.
He's the lolly man.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly dirty.
Yeah. Candy. We also call erasers rubbers as well.
Now, I have to ask, because you brought this up with Danny, does Peanut Man mean something specifically over there?
No, not that I'm aware of. It was just funny because
Okay.
he had his daughter come in while he was podcasting and call him Peanut Man.
She called him like Daddy Kurt Peanut Man or something like
I
that.
don't know.
She gave him like some other like middle name or something.
You've got to be careful when you give the kids the hot mic, eh? Like,
They will go crazy. All right. Icky Bod Clay. He has a
Ooh.
job, even though he's dead, I think. I think he's dead.
yeah, but you would think he's a jack-o'-lantern, right? So is his job scaring people?
Yeah. His job is fright.
Fright.
Like these are just adjectives.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like job flexing. No, does he make money off it? How does it work? Like, yeah, fright.
Well, it is a circus, so maybe there's like a haunted house.
They are real monsters. Their full society is built around scaring people. I don't know how they monetize it, but they have like schools for it and everything. So
Monsters Inc. is literally
same thing, right?
incorporated.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Blob.
Scientist.
Is that your final answer?
Yes. Oh,
Sorry. Blob is a clay maker, apparently. Who would have guessed?
He should have been a giant scalpel.
For his job?
Well, as his character, if he makes things out of clay, he should be one of the implements.
Oh,
That, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this goes back to my whole idea with the story. Having the human being like the sculptor.
Well, it's like Smash, but at least with Smash, it's a hand, right? But the hand makes sense because the hand puts them in the thing, right? But they're clay, so there should be a sculptor, right?
Yes. You know what? I'm surprised that nobody from ClayFighter made it into Smash, considering this was technically a Nintendo-led thing. I don't even think there's a spirit.
No.
Anyway, you got 4 out of 8, which, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you did not pass the test here. I don't even know what that means when I say that, but I hope you had some fun.
Yeah, no, it's good. You can do worse.
This has been Resume Rampage. Now let's move on to the presentation, the graphics, the music, and the sound effects. I may have a lot of bad things to say, so I'll pass it off to you first. What did you think about the presentation of ClayFighter? Not saying that you have to also say like great things about it.
I'm not gonna.
I'm hesitantly passing it off to you.
I'm not gonna. But actually, the stages were okay. I thought the stages were, good for their time, good for their era, varied. They didn't reuse the stages the way, although on the Super Nintendo they do reuse one stage, but they have they have more stages technically because of a palette swap. Yeah, the backgrounds look okay, the characters look okay. It's a clay look they've gone for. I feel like if this had been an arcade game, that would have looked a lot way better. I just still feel like it's not animated with enough frames, and that's probably because of the difficulty of doing the stop motion clay. But the sound is especially the Mega Drive version's completely forgettable. All the sound effects are like really annoying, to be honest. You play with Blue Suede Goo, which I did the first time round. It's just like, every 10 seconds. Yes. There's voice. The Mega Drive version doesn't have the famous intro that everyone apparently loves except us. And the voice lines at the end when they have wing quotes, sort of like, this is not work to be proud of, if I'm being honest. I know the claymation team's probably pretty proud of this, and like I said, they built on it in other projects later. Like you were telling me, they made one like a TV show. But as far as presentation, sound, and no one's putting this on any list.
The sound effects. I guess I'll just start off there. The sound effects are horrible.
Super annoying.
The Genesis, the Mega Drive, they're not known for having good sound. which also goes with the soundtrack for this game, which I can't remember a single song off of this game. I would have no idea. Even if you played it now, I would not be able to like, oh, this is ClayFighter. When you hear a song from Mortal Kombat, you know it's Mortal Kombat. Like it has that like almost like classic, not Japanese, but like classical like Chinese sound to it almost. Even though it's not clearly made by Americans, but it's very inspired by
100%.
the old like kung fu movies and stuff like that. Like you know a Mortal Kombat song when you hear it. The same way you would know a Street Fighter. Like again, when we talked about Mortal Kombat 2 on the show, you know, Street Fighter has those very recognizable songs. You know what I mean? Like those characters have those themes. This has nothing. This doesn't have anything. And maybe there's somebody be like, no, man, Bad Mr. Frosty's theme is great. I don't know. I couldn't remember.
No,
it all sounded the same to me.
There's no one bopping to this in their car. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Maybe there's some cool remixes out there. I don't know. I'd have to take a look, and like you talked about like the one-liners that the characters have after each fight. I couldn't understand what the hell they were saying. I had no idea. It just sounded like a gargled mess. I think this entire game kind of looks horrible too. You know, I complained about Primal Rage being way too dark, but I think it kind of works in Primal Rage's case because they are using stop motion animation with clay. This game is way too bright. It's like the complete opposite, where it's like this also looks bad. And so I think like in hindsight, I think I should have been a little more kind to Primal Rage. There's something about the lighting in this game that like enhances all of its flaws and like the weirdness of like how the models stand out from like the backgrounds. Cause I'm not, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think the backgrounds of the stages are also made of clay. Maybe parts of it are, but I don't think, I think it might be like a hybrid.
Yeah, it is. They're not, they don't, and I'd be very surprised if they were. I would pretty much guarantee they're not by looking at them.
For this game being advertised as like this, like as something that's supposed to be humorous with like this like slight edge of attitude and stuff like that. There's not a lick of blood or like crude humor or any of that stuff. Obviously that would come later when you got people like Booger Man in your game. There's none of that here. And then one of the things too that I noticed was that Taffy just kind of looks like Toe Jam from Toe Jam Mineral without the hat. Or Gumby, yeah. Which is, again, a very dated reference even by 1990 standards. But yeah, man. And all of this is to say too, like this is on a hardware disadvantage. The Genesis can't do sprite scaling or rotation. It has problems doing semi-transparencies, and the color palette is more limited than the Super Nintendo. So there's also quite a bit of dithering going on. So all of the warts, graphical warts and stuff are like full on displayed here. And so I think the presentation is also complete garbage. It's a mess.
And it also looked on the Super Nintendo, even though it's not as... When it comes to sound with the Mega Drive, though, I don't accept a lot of the criticism that a lot of the excuses. The Mega Drive hardware. There's Mega Drive games where that's not been a problem, right? So,
talk to me on this because Chris and I had a long discussion about this.
Voices can be tough on the Mega Drive, but music, there's games that the Mega Drive sound. If you take the top, say, 10 best sounding Mega Drive games and put them up against the top 10 best sounding SNES games, you've got a very fair fight there. So when it comes to music, right? And sound effects, voices are tough because you can only do so much with that range that they have on that chip. But they've still done a lot better with a lot less on the Mega Drive. And this game really doesn't have an excuse, like I said, especially when it comes to sound.
we've reached the end of the episode, and I don't think there's going to be any surprises here, but we're going to find out if we would recommend checking out ClayFighter in 2025. And I think I'll let you go first.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up. Obviously, will we play it today? We had to for today. I have played it before today. Before we talked about this episode, I had played them. Like I said again, it was for my own podcast that we did and never ended up releasing the episode. But yeah, does it hold up? No. The case can potentially hold stuff up if you got the Mega Drive port. The SNES port's made of cardboard, so you can't really hold anything with it. It will just crush and you'll be on the cartridge. So we can use figuratively and literally. Literally, it doesn't hold all up, right? It's bad. It's bad. And sorry for giving you so many things to beep. Or to put a sound effect in.
No, whatever. No, it's all good.
But no, it doesn't play well. It's not fun. Don't play it.
So like when I think about how this game was made, right? How it came to be and where its inspiration came from, which is parody. And parodies by nature come from a place of either affection or a place of mockery. Like it wants to make fun of the source material. And it can be a loving homage, but more than not, like especially when there's that layer of humor and absurdity. In a case of like a game like ClayFighter, it feels like Interplay deliberately set out to ridicule games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, right? And so if their goal was to make a bad fighting game on purpose as part of that mentality, then they did it. Mission accomplished. They absolutely nailed it. Right? But like ClayFighter was a bad game when it launched. Like we talked about it. Our listeners talked about it, and obviously it also has not aged well at all. If anything, it has gotten worse with time. The novelty of like the claymation characters and the humor, I feel like wears off like very quickly. I don't even think it made me laugh once or chuckle or anything. It's clunky. It's an unbalanced mess of a game, and it's not just the mechanics that are outdated, but like the entire thing is just a time capsule of dated pop culture references and jokes that just fall flat if you weren't really the demographic for that stuff in the early 90s. Which like raises the question for me, like who was this game actually made for? Is it for hardcore fighting game fans? Like I don't think so. Probably not. Because the gameplay is like way too shallow and it's not refined at all. Is it for casual players to come into the fighting game genre? Maybe. But like the humor, again, for the game is so specific that anyone outside of the narrow window of the 90s who watched particular shows like Gumby or know about Elvis for some reason and played those specific fighting games prior to this would get it. But if you played those prior games, why would you play ClayFighter? And ClayFighter feels like a joke that only the creators were in on. And even they didn't seem all that committed to the punchline because this is just lazy. And I, again, like credit where credit is due. Like I want to congratulate Danger Productions for like everything that they went on to accomplish. We talked about ClayFighter being like one of their earliest projects. I don't know if there's any nostalgia attached to this thing for them, but like, to be honest, ClayFighter is probably one of those things that I don't think they would probably bring up with pride or like wear it as like a badge of honor or anything like that. So, all of this is to say, I hate this game. It's really bad. Absolutely not. I am not recommending ClayFighter. I do not think it holds up.
No, and it's not going on resumes. Except the animator people who did the claymation for some other clay project. But everyone else is not putting this on their resume, that's for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about ClayFighter. It's done. It's in the can. I'm never coming back. Mr. Demon, Mr. Raging Demon, I appreciate you for taking the time playing this thing and shooting me on it.
Oh, it's fun. It is fun to talk about it. It's always fun to talk about games. So I appreciated you inviting me on.
Yeah, this was going to be the best part of the experience, honestly.
Yeah. And, we could have talked about a good game. Like, we could have gone, we'll talk about one of the great fighting games. But you know what?
Right. Well, I mean, we did that already.
Yeah,
right?
we have.
I had you on for the good one.
Yeah, on that library, MK2 is definitely the better fighting game category. But yeah.
But you've got your own show with your brother. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find Command List?
Yeah, so just type it into Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever. We do have a Patreon. It's voluntary, $1 a month. You just search us on Patreon. And it is on YouTube as well. If for some reason people do listen to podcasts on YouTube, apparently. So, yeah, I've started putting episodes up there. So we just talk fighting games mostly. We have done a few beat-em-ups, and we do a lot of topical episodes as well. I believe we're going to talk about AAA gaming soon as well, because it's fun to do at the moment.
Ooh, okay. It's not going so well in the industry. So,
well, how can a game with 2 people be better than a game with, a nearly $1 billion budget? Well, quite easy, because it's fun, right? So there's a big topic at the moment, considering all the layoffs and all the hubris and, and the quality of the really high budget games not being what it needs to be, so yeah. So anyway, that's a topic we're probably going to cover soon. So yeah, Command List. If you like fighting games, and even if you don't really like fighting games, but you find it entertaining, we appreciate the listens.
Yeah, 100%. I don't cover a lot of fighting games here, so if you're here because ClayFighter is a fighting game, go check out Command List. You're definitely going to find something that you're going to enjoy listening to.
It's fun, Keith. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thanks for being here. Next time on the program, it's all over. It's finally here. My coverage on the 4th generation of Sega games concludes the only way it possibly can, because it is true, dear listeners. I have not exhausted my supply of Sonic games. There's still one in there. Willie and Ginger, formerly of the Grammar Pidians Play Video Games, return to the show once again for, of course, it has to be another STI game. I couldn't have planned it better myself. And if you don't know the reference, you should go check out the Kid Chameleon episode. Another STI game. It's a fun one. And the game that I am talking about, of course, is Sonic Spinball. I hope everybody is taking care of themselves out there. Always just remember to take care of yourself. Take a minute for yourself. It's important. And always remember, of course, it's okay to like a video game.